evening, good afternoon, whatever time of the world you're in. This is Carla from Rehan's World of Connection, and I am here today to talk to Mr. Smiley, Ken Rochon, about his life, his work, and his passions. And it seems like he has a passion that is very close to mine, which is smiling and laughter. We are going to start the conversation soon, but right now I want to remind you that this show is sponsored by the Institute of Peace, which is an online organization creating peace or promoting peace one conversation at a time. Okay, Mr. Smiley, can you please introduce yourself?
Well, Carla, only for you will I do such a thing. And golly, your laughter is contagious. I have to say that we'd have to do a Keep Smiling book, Laughter Happens. And Keep Smiling, Peace Happens. I would love to do that. So you play full out with your laugh. And I have to say that I'll have to practice my laugh a little bit after this show. And then I'll feel a little more comfortable about laughing with all my heart. But I do smile with all my heart every day. And the books that have culminated from this smile are actually just, it was started off as an experiment. But if you want me to start off with the Keep Smiling part, or would you like me to start off with a little bit of who I am?
I want to start with who you are, because we haven't spoken long enough for me to know who you are. I know you're a dad and you have a family, but that's about all I know.
Well, you may not know this, but I have a dad and mom too.
I thought so.
So my mom is actually the reason that I have the smile movement, but we will get to that point in a second. So I am the product of being an Army brat. My dad was a military officer, traveled the world, and in doing so, I had a great appreciation for culture, diversity, and travel. And when I moved back to the United States at age 13, I got the bug of being an entrepreneur after reading a book by Mark Twain, Tom Sawyer. And I started doing lawns and paper routes and all the lovely things I guess a boy does to make money, make some shekels, and learn the game of being an entrepreneur, a salesman, and a businessman. When I was 18, I moved to Maryland and opened up my first company, which was a logo design company and also a DJ company. And that DJ company is still alive. It is barely kicking with COVID, and it's very challenging to even know if that's going to exist after COVID. However, in the 37 years I've been doing DJing, I grew to really love entrepreneurism. And when my mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, I made a decision to be a caregiver with my dad for her final 3 years on the planet from 2005 to 2008, at which time I started having very spiritual conversations and getting more aligned to the fact that God had a purpose for every single person that's alive, and I wanted to know my purpose. So on a quest of some 7 years, I got into media, I got into leadership, I got into speaking on stages, and I published my very first book in 2009. And that journey led me to a gentleman named Barry Shore in 2015, March of 2015, and he handed me a Keep Smiling card. And that card seemed to be what I was looking for some 8 years. And I guess, what is it? 2015 minus 2008, 7 years. And so it's a 7-year journey to get a card that was handed to me that meant all that I needed to know. And that was that smiles are the best measure of knowing you're living life, and that you're giving life, and that you're inspiring life, and that your life matters. So I decided to embrace the Keep Smiling card, turn it into a movement. And my good friend Barry was kind enough to send me 100,000 cards with my media company on the back so people could find the photos I took. And every time I took a photo of someone smiling, I was so happy that I captured their soul, but even more happy that they showed the world that they're a beautiful person with a smile on their face. So I think that brings us kind of up to date. I'll just say one last thing is that all those photos amassed into a collection of about 10,000 photos, of which probably 70% of them, I don't even know the people's names. But I started saying, you know what? I don't want these photos to be wasted in my computer or wasted on Facebook, where they go up, they get seen, they go viral, and then they, of course, wouldn't say they die, but they go into archive land on Facebook. And so I decided to make my first Keep Smiling book, and it just had 100 random photos in it of people I didn't even honestly know their names. And people were so perplexed and interested in it. I said, I think I got something here. I think I got two things. One is that a smile is a way of actually making someone's day and turning their alignment with the universe to actually attract goodness and to be goodness. And the second thing I have is a vehicle for people to have a legacy and keep track of the smiles that they create while they are on this journey called life.
What a cool thing you are doing. Now, you told me, and I'm just going back a little, you told me that you taught science. What brought you to Washington, D.C., and where did you come from?
Well, that is an interesting answer, because I was in Illinois in a farm town called Galesburg. I'd moved from Germany to being a soccer player in Germany for 5 years, thinking that would be my life, that I would be a soccer player for a career, and then moving to a little farm town. And within a year or two of honestly being depressed, I decided to take on running. I became a cross-country state runner, and I started working in the cornfields, detasseling corn. And my dad, in his 5th year in Galesburg, Illinois, teaching at Knox College, learned that his military career was coming to an end. And so he was going to have to make a dramatic change in his lifestyle. So he took an offer to work at NSA, National Security Agency, in Fort Meade, Maryland. And I moved here at age 18. And I got the entrepreneur bug at the biggest level. The metropolitan area, DC and Baltimore, has got to be the most, I think, thriving. It's almost impossible not to have a job if you care and you're hungry to contribute. There's just so many opportunities in this area. So I opened up the DJ company when I was 18. I opened up a graphic design company when I was 18. And that kind of brings us up to, I guess, me going to school here in Maryland. And my mom was a teacher and my dad was a military officer. So I went to Johns Hopkins for military for Army ROTC. And I went to UMBC in College Park to get my education degree in science. And I taught. So I became a product of my mom and my dad.
What sciences did you like to teach?
Well, what I studied initially was biology, thinking that would be what I would love. But in the end, I fell in love with physics. Chemistry I enjoyed, and that's one of the things I taught, but I did not enjoy it as much as physics. Physics is just so enjoyable. I love that everything that I taught is matter and energy. So it's called physical science. I taught 8th grade physical science in PG County at Nicholas Orme Middle School, and also at Buck Lodge Middle School. And what's interesting about COVID is I'd lost touch with a very dear man who really understood that the education system needed some, it needed some tweaking to be the least. So he was kind of, he was the guy that I wanted to work for because he really cared about kids learning. And so his name is Kevin Sawyer, and he lives in Florida. And during COVID, I made it a mission to find him, and I found him. So after 20 years of not being in the education system, I was able to thank him and tell him what a difference he made in my life. And I think COVID has been really a time where you're able to have introspection, gratitude, and you can be creative. It's a time to be creative. And I don't think our Keep Smiling movement and our Keep Smiling Week, National Keep Smiling Week last week, would have been so big if COVID wasn't honestly given to us as a time to remind us that a smile and that love and that relationships are valuable.
I agree with you, because the smile is such an invitation to someone to come to you. When did you get interested in smiling and the importance of the smile?
Well, when my son was born, it was a kind of traumatic birthing, and he did not come out really like it was going to be good news. And then all of a sudden a miracle happened, and he was awake, alive, alert. And the doctors and nurses said, my gosh, he's alert. He wasn't really coming out. He came out blue, to be very frank. He was not very good shape. And I was obviously very concerned. And all of a sudden He came to life. And I said, I did my prayer and I said, God, this is what I want more than anything. I want this baby to be alive. And he came alive, and I smiled. And I said, I live for smiles, and I live to show my son that smiles are love, they're happiness. So my son's got a contagious smile. He is a cool kid.
How old is he?
He turned 7 in 2 weeks.
So you said you have children. Is he the youngest? Or?
No, I have a child. I have a child. And sometimes, maybe I'm referring to myself. Sometimes I act like a child, so I may be including myself in pluralizing that I have children. I have myself, and I have my son.
Okay.
Yes.
So does he smile a lot?
He does. Yeah, he's a comic. He's a ham. He's not really comfortable yet on the video, but he's very fascinated with people that are on video, like Mark Rober, who does a science video program, and he's very loyal to some of the people that do coding for gaming. So he's very perplexed by that, and so I think he's going to get into it at some point. But right now, he did do his first joke. He did 2 jokes last week on a show like this, and he also did a joke on the Social Wiser. He has his very first book coming out. It's called Kenny's Joke. Yeah, he's got a book called Kenny's Favorite Jokes, and it's all his knock jokes and all the fun jokes he likes to test people with and entertain people with. Actually, I'll show you one of his books. Now, this book is not his book that he wrote. This is a book I wrote for him. But this is, let's see, there we go. Kenny's Favorite Things.
Yeah.
So that's his favorite thing. So I said, hey, Kenny, you tell all these jokes. How would you like a book that says Kenny's favorite jokes? And he says, oh, that sounds cool. So his book comes out like in 2 weeks on his birthday.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And when's his birthday?
It is on Flag Day, June 14th.
Wow. I remember when people put up flags on Flag Day.
We do. I mean, I did before he was born, but I mean, I'm patriotic, but we certainly do it. And we have some wonderful pictures of him holding American flags.
How wonderful.
Yeah, it is.
Now, did your son do the drawing on that picture?
He is an artist. That particular one came out when he was about 3, but he has a command for doing very nice artwork, and his penmanship and calligraphy is pretty impressive for his age. I think he's going to have remarkable calligraphy skills.
Amazing. Now let's get into smiles.
Let's get into these smiles.
Why is a smile so important?
Well, I think I went from one career that was the universal language called music. Music is the universal language, to another career, the universal expression. So the universal expression, as we all know, if someone smiles, they typically are at peace, welcoming, love, and they're typically very positive. So a smile shifts the energy, and it shifts the energy internally for yourself. It also shifts the energy externally for those that experience it. So I have been amazed. The more I study smiles, the more I find that they are God's gift and God's ultimate drug to human sanity and the human journey.
Now, there's a lot of research out on smiling and how important it is for the
Yeah, don't believe any of it. Don't believe any of it, Carla.
Are you serious?
No, I'm not serious.
Can you speak about that a little?
Sure. So I will say that I have a book that is coming out of 2nd edition. So it's The Science of Smiles. And for your guest and for you, I'm happy. I think we're going to be meeting sometime this week and get a nice photo of you with a smile card. So I will make sure you are gifted one of these books as a thank you for not only having me on your show, but also the work you do and the belief you have in not only smiles, but the science of what smiles do. So I will share a couple things. So when we, some of this is more the human behavior aspect, and some of it's the chemistry aspect, and then some of it's the spiritual aspect. So when we wake up in the morning and I find that gratitude is a really good measure of getting you in the right mindset to experience the phenomenon of smiling. So If you are in a bad mood, you probably are low on gratitude. And if you're low on gratitude, you actually have all kinds of stressors internally and cellularly in your body that actually make you feel more of the same. So what happens is you actually start feeling what you are thinking, and you're thinking what you're feeling, which gets you more of the reality. And the next thing that happens is you are projecting into the universe that I am having a bad day, I feel bad. And the universe says, you know what? If that's the way you feel about it, let me go ahead and have you feel it more, because there's nothing shifting. You're not changing the energy at all. So people that have a bad day, they actually are in a journey that day to prove that they are right. And unfortunately, they do. So they bump another car, they stub their toe. All these things happen because they're not in flow. And so what I did was I started studying the shift aspect of moving from a non-smile or a neutral feeling to gratitude or smiling. And it's interesting. I don't know if these stats are quite accurate, because in my first edition, I've had people tell me that the science of the count of how many smiles a kid does versus how many adult does, and maybe you can help me with this. It was what I got as a Google fact was that a child smiles 400 times a day on average, and an adult smiles average 40 times. And my scientific, I guess, assessment of that was that adults are taking life too seriously and kids are enjoying life. And the more the kids are progressing up the adult chain of having bills and responsibilities, et cetera, they start losing their wonder, and they also start losing the reason that we are allowed to be happy every minute, which is a choice to be happy. So one thing that is in this book that I really like to talk about when I'm on stage is that it's well known that if you are happy up here and you're thinking happy thoughts, that it sends it down here to the muscles and you form a smile. And we all know that to be true, because you're basically programmed correctly that you wouldn't go down with a frown if you're happy up here. But what's fascinating to me that I learned in doing this research was that if you're unhappy, and you would technically not be smiling and you would be miserable here or not happy. If you smile here because you're forcing yourself to make your muscles form a smile, it actually reverses the other way too, to the computer. And the computer says, why is down here smiling? Oh, I must be happy. And so you actually generate happy thoughts and happiness and the release of all the wonderful endorphins and all the other lovely chemicals that are in that book that go into a lot more depth as to what you experience and why you have the euphoria, why you have the happiness, why you have the dopamine kicking off, all the things that you feel great about when you feel like you're winning or it's being released in goodness.
Many people think forcing a smile is not a good thing to do. And in fact, I was speaking to an 18-year-old maybe a few weeks ago about it because he was feeling down. And I told him, just come and put a smile on your face. And he was saying, but I don't feel like a typical 18-year-old boy. And I said, well, that's up to you, but forcing the smile could help you. Can you speak to that?
I can do my best shot. So I would never use the word force. I would use the word.
He used force. I wasn't even forcing, I was suggesting.
Right, exactly. So it is about, so a shift is free will. It is not anything but free will. And when we ask people to hold the card up and take a picture, that's their free will saying, I would love to. If they don't want to, we would never ask them to do so. But here's what happens. When they are happy and they hold the card up, they shift even happier. Because I ask them a question. I ask every single person a question I take a picture of. I say, what are you most proud of, or what do you live for? I ask something that in that line. So your gentleman who is 18 years old, who is using the word forced, is stressed about what he's thinking and feeling, and now he's even more stressed that he has to do something else that doesn't feel comfortable to him. So I would speak to the fact that if he was to do exercises like what am I grateful for, we have an exercise starting actually today. It is the month of gratitude. We're challenging people to come up with 30 things, one thing a day, and at the end of the month have 30 things. As you think gratitude, you're actually programming your brain to be happy. You're programming your brain that life is good. And really, if you think about all the things that are perspective, our perspective is a culmination of good thoughts and bad thoughts. So if the reason people that hire really expensive coaches to have them win, it's because their programming that's happening is their perspective is they will win. Can you imagine going into a game and saying, I'm going to program myself that I will not win? Doesn't make sense.
No.
So if you program yourself that you're happy and you program yourself with gratitude, you actually experience it. It's not fake at all. I think what he was rebelling about is he didn't want to be fake, or he just really liked it, or he liked to be in a bad mood in the moment. And sometimes people just need some time. My son certainly does. If he's in a bad mood, it's not really a good energy to put out and say, hey, Kenny, I would like you to be happy right now. He's not happy. But when he comes to, we talk about it, and we talk about how he can be happy and how he can be powerful. And that's actually an interesting thing. When you're happy, you are powerful. When you're unhappy, you're not. That's actually an interesting way of looking at life, is that when you go into a job, if you're not happy, do you think the person's going to hire you? They want power. And I actually was talking to someone earlier today, and they said, you know what? I smile when I was a pitcher for a softball team. And when I smiled, they thought I was extra confident, and they got that confidence actually scared them into I was going to be more powerful on the plate, which is kind of funny that a smile emits all kinds of power and confidence, not intimidation.
So how do you recommend that someone who's feeling a little negative decide to put a smile on their face? I have stories where I've seen it change me, but I'm wondering what you would say.
Well, if you've lived life long enough to know that life can be worse, you also know life can be better. And so for those people who are in a pity party, I will just say that they may not have enough perspective on life. I lost my mom to Alzheimer's, and it really awakened me of how precious life is. And I also was awakened that you have to live for people you love, and you have to be your best self for people you love. So every day I wake up, it's not just about me being positive and powerful and confident. It's about me doing great things so my son benefits and the people that I love benefit. So I would say that this person who's 18 may not know what it is like to have a friend who got a motorcycle and rode their motorcycle on the first day. They got in a car accident and lost their leg. I mean, that's a perspective right there. And he may not be mature enough to know that what he has is probably everything he could possibly need or want to get wherever he wants to go. And there are people that have lost a limb and are so grateful they didn't lose their life. So it's about perspective. And I would just say to the gentleman that take your time to get through this, but don't let it take you down. I think that's the process. And by the way, if you are angry or you're sad, there is a reason that you're that, and it's good to work through it. I think it's good to work through it. And by the way, if we were never sad or never angry, honestly, I don't know if happiness would be such a gift. And I don't think a smile would be such a gift. I choose to smile a lot because I program myself to be grateful for every moment I get to see my son, every moment that I'm able to do this work of the Keep Smiling movement, and every day I get to see someone else smile. I mean, it just means a lot to me.
And I agree with you. I would have loved to have had some powerful words to convey to this person, but I couldn't. No matter what I said, it was like, and I thought, okay, I'm talking to a teenager, let
All
it
right. Well, I'll tell you what, I do have a little bit of I have a solution possibly. So
good.
this gentleman that is having a little issue with unhappiness he's not unique. There's a lot of people.
Right.
A very high propensity of people that can get lost in this COVID as to woe is me. Well, I have something called a dose of hope. A dose of hope are these Keep Smiling books, and every one of them has a common theme to them. Every one of them. Do you know what the common theme is?
A smile.
Well, that is definitely the true theme. That is definitely the true theme. The common theme is not one of them was given a life that they had to just do nothing. They all had a life. They all had a life where they had challenges, failures, setbacks, really hardships even. I've had people write these books that were homeless. I've had people write these books that were sexually molested. I've had people write these books that have overcome things that you just would not believe a human could overcome. This particular book is my favorite, not because I wrote it. It's because it's the one that has the 100 people that wrote their books. So, sorry. So all these people wrote a Keep Smiling book, every one of them. So there's 112 Keep Smiling books. So think about this. If this gentleman read one of those books and he read a story about someone who, I don't know, is under a bridge, has no food, and is just really focused on one thing, getting some food. He may have a perspective shift in the fact that his life is actually pretty good, that he's under a roof, that he has a refrigerator, that he has food in the refrigerator. Like no matter what his issue is, I promise there's a perspective shift that if he didn't have 3 of the top things in his life, he would all of a sudden say, you know what, I'm very grateful I have those. And I teach my son as often as I can that leaving the lights on, leaving the door open, all these things are things that he may not appreciate. But if you have the lights off, you're conserving energy and you're actually respecting money and you're respecting the world and you're respecting the people that have to pay the bills.
True. And to get that across to a 7-year-old may not be an easy task.
Well, you know, it's actually easy. Can I say that it is not easy, but it is easy enough. And that he's a pretty mature kid. And I ask him, I say, Kenny, our energy bill, let's say it's about $400 a month. Would you like to help pay it? If you would like to help pay it, then I have to say that you can start making some choices of whether lights are left on or not. And he doesn't want to. I don't know any kid that wants to pay an energy bill.
No, I don't know any kid who wants to pay anything. But it's really, I mean, a smile is so important. A bit of advice that I give when people talk to me about smiling is that when you smile, that's the glands under the eyes that send the happy message, hey, let the happy hormones go through your body.
That's right.
As a scientist, what can you talk more about that? Because I think it's so very important.
Well, the eyes, as you put it, are actually the eyes to the soul, and they are the truth of whether the smile is genuine or not. So when we have the squinting of the eyes, and in other words, if you have a mask and you're smiling, your eyes tell that you are in a genuine smile versus a fake smile. So this is it is not fake to smile if you are thinking gratitude and love. It's what is the basis of your smile? Is your smile, I have to smile because my job tells me to smile? That's not going to be a genuine smile. And I would even argue that someone that does smiles that are not genuine are probably shortcutting their life, shortcutting their health and their wellness. There are studies of people that looked at just yearbook pictures or baseball cards, and the baseball cards or the yearbook pictures that had the genuine smiles, they lived an average of 7 years longer, had less divorce rates, had less health issues, had less abundance issues, et cetera, et cetera. So the science of a smile is probably still so untapped, but there's certainly enough experimental data that says that people that smile more are enjoying life, attracting more goodness in their life, are having an easier time in life. It doesn't seem fair, but then it does. It does seem fair, doesn't it? Like the more you smile, the more smiles you get, right? And the more joy you bring to the world, the more joy you have. Isn't that fun?
It is, but even if someone is making a smile, doesn't that help that person grow, you know, feel happier?
Indeed, yeah. So, as we were talking about earlier, the chemicals that are actually being released from the brain are actually the rewards that you get for feeling that joy. So, when you are hitting "I'm happy," the chemicals that are actually working in concert with that feeling keep it euphoric. So, the happier you are, the more you're programming the synapses to actually anchor and get to those releases, and the releases are actually the addiction, so to speak, of the happiness cycle.
So would you say that we are all more all energy than we are a body? You know, we can touch this body and I know that it's there. But are we more energy, and the energy we radiate is due to where our thoughts are, or the thoughts that we allow to stick in our body?
Yes, if I had, I'll tell you what. I will send you some studies that I have seen, and all those 20. I think there's 19 benefits that you get from smiling, and they're quite in depth. And because my screen is locked in right now, I'll just say that I don't have them handy, but I'm happy to send them to you. But people that smile are more creative. People that smile are more employable. People that smile have better relationships. People that smile have less worries. Oh, by the way, I will divert into a tangent right now. There's a Buddhist that I saw a wonderful video, and the video, if you look on Goalcast, it is the most pleasing 5-letter word, and the 5-letter word is, of course, smile. And he says, "I will share a chart that will change your life." This chart is a chart of worry. Okay, so do you have a problem? Yes or no. So if the problem is no, then why are you worrying? If you have no problem, why would you worry? If the answer is yes, then you have two yes nos again. If you have a problem and the answer is yes, is there something you can do about the problem? And if the answer is yes, then why are you worrying? And if the answer is no, then why are you worrying? There's nothing you can do about the problem. So I share that because too many people are cycling that there is a reason to worry, that there's a chart that allows them the justification to worry. So going back to your question about the science, this list of 19 can be backed up with a simple Google search of what is Harvard, what is Stanford, what is all these colleges when they've done these studies on smiles, what have they found? And it is consistent that when you smile, your cells are happier. When you smile, you are well-er. You have a wellness, you have more vitality. When you are not smiling, you are actually getting toxic. And that toxicity in your body makes you more susceptible to disease, dis-ease. So when you are at ease, you're actually vital. And when you're vital, I mean, who knows? The people that are smiling the most, they're having the same exact environment as people that don't smile, yet they seem to be flourishing with wellness. I mean, that's a scientific statistic that is easy to prove. And people that have smile more, they are more of a magnet in the workplace. And a leader that smiles has the highest retention of people at the workplace. So these 19 are the list of all the benefits you get from smiling, from the cell to the dollar, from the personal to the career. And these 19 they're just too easy. Imagine if you're unhappy. Do you think someone wants to live with you?
No.
No, it's miserable. It's like a death sentence on some level. So people that smile more have more enjoyable relationships, longer relationships, more of fulfilling relationships. And by the way, smiling is very connected to the endorphins and the hormones and your sexual activity as well. So people that smile more, they are more attractive. They attract better mates. They attract people that want to express themselves sexually, affectionately, every which way. So the list goes on. And by the way, there's more than 19. My page got completely full twice with the 19 benefits. I said, you know what? 19 is maybe not the best number in the world, but it is going to fill up these 2 pages rather nicely. So I have a 2-page piece that's going in the second edition of Science of Smiles. And these books are available by ebook for free. I don't I don't want anyone not to have this information.
I want to see it.
Well, you're going to get a physical copy because you're physically coming to my studio near BWI to get your famous picture taken with a Keep Smiling card. Ta-da!
You got to Keep Smiling card?
I do, even though I don't know how my right from left here. There we go. By the way, we have the cards in 27 languages.
You're kidding.
I don't kid about things like that. You know, I take a smile wherever I go, right? And when I hand these cards to people, you wouldn't believe how many people, when I take the picture, how many say, okay, thank you. And I go, I can't take your smile back. And so they go, well, you mean I get to keep this? So we've given away about 1.5 million of these cards. Barry Shore has been a huge proponent of that. He has, if you go to the website, thekeepsmilingmovement.com, you can get free cards, and you can pick the cards, by the way, and they are free. These cards are free. All you pay is, I think it's $3.75 or something like that for shipping. So it depends on how many cards you get, but the shipping is what we ask you to pick up. That's it. And about 1.5 million cards have been mailed out or given out to people to date.
Wow. Now, how long has this organization been in existence?
Well, Barry Shore, his story is in every one of the books. He had Barry-Gilliam disease syndrome, which is a nervous disorder, and he became a quadriplegic, I believe, right around 1999. And a friend of his gave him a card, and that card was a reminder to him to smile, to be positive, and to look at life as a gift. And so over a 4-year period, he got upright again. He was passing cards to everyone. You know, when he was passing cards to the nurses and the doctors, do you think he got better care?
Probably.
You better believe it. You better believe it. So he is a phenomenon that he is walking. Barry-Gilliam syndrome is not something you get back up from. It is a very serious nervous collapse disorder. So he started in 1999. I told you in 2015 I met him, and it was still not an organization. It was just conceptually a movement. And from the movement in 2015, it became a legacy piece, a publishing piece in 2016. And then last year, there's a lovely lady, Andrea Adams Miller. She became the executive director, and she turned it into a nonprofit, a 501c nonprofit. So you can actually go to the site. You can donate. You can let us know if you would like to do a Keep Smiling book. And there's also another lovely lady. Her name is Crystal Richardson, and Crystal Richardson is the COO, and she is the drill instructor of Smiles. She makes sure that we are doing our project management correctly, that we're keeping our promises, that we are accountable. So anytime when we did this Keep Smiling Week, we met every single week for roughly 3 months before Keep Smiling Week. And the next Keep Smiling Week is actually in October. It's World Keep Smiling Week. And that is to celebrate our 27 languages, which we hope to have 50 at that point.
Why isn't this advertised all around the states and the world? Because if people were smiling more, all this anger would.
Carla, you have hit it completely. That is the whole reason I'm doing it. That's the whole reason this lovely board of Barry, Andrea, and Crystal are doing it. That's the reason that 2,000 people are members at this point. And thank you very much for being a very strong member in the Keep Smiling Week. Thank you very much for that. Every single person that invited people, you are giving the gift of a smile. You're giving the gift of positivity. You're giving the gift of actually living as a human. Because if you're not smiling, you actually, in my opinion, you're not living as a human. You're in some type of suffering. And that suffering is something that is, unfortunately, just as much a choice as the smile. People don't realize that when they are in suffering or they're in worry or they're in anger, they chose that, or on some level, they chose it. And by the way, I'm guilty as charged. I had anger issues when I was a younger man. And I'll tell you, the best gift I gave myself was getting counseling and getting past that anger management and learning how to manage it. And the biggest thing that helped me was actually gratitude. And gratitude. That's the biggest thing. When you're grateful, how can you be angry? When you are happy, how can you be sad?
So what can we do to help people be more happy?
We have finished 112 books. We want to do 1,000, and we want these books to spread across the world as a dose of hope. We want people to know that if they have a story that inspires others, that we want to publish that story. We want really every single person that's held a Keep Smiling card to take a picture of it and use that picture to remind themselves that they are joy and they are an instrument of joy and a leader of joy. And we have the cards available for free so that they can be passed out to other people. We have so many people that say that after they get this card and they take the picture, they put the card on their computer stand, or they put their card right next to their computer, they put it next to their workstation, or they have cards in different parts of the house. Because when it says keep smiling, it's actually the most interesting expression to me, because it's not assuming to start smiling, it's to keep smiling. Like, be joy, continue to be joy. So Carla, I have to say the questions you're asking and the conversation we're having is just such a real needed conversation. And I really appreciate you. And I'm so glad that you invited me after Keep Smiling Week. This is actually quite a trophy and gift after a wonderful week of joy and having 2,000 people join a community. That your question you just asked of how does this ripple into the world? It's time more than anything. It's commitment. It's energy. The more, I was doing the math the other day, and the math is quite incalculable. If Facebook didn't have an algorithm that was so, I don't want to use the word pathetic or be ungrateful, but if the algorithm was very big and everyone knew what was happening in that group would grow. That would probably be 2 million people in the group right now, because the doubling effect is just outrageous. The 10 times effect is probably more realistic. If you feel joy, would you want to tell, like if you saw the best movie of your life, wouldn't you want to tell like 10 or 20 people?
Right.
Right. Well, when you feel alive and you feel joy and you feel in the community that's safe, accepting, and really the antithesis of what's happening in some of our cities right now, you feel like telling the world. And 10,000 people were invited to that group and 2,000 have accepted. So to your point, the more people that know that this is available, like when I get an invite to something, I don't even know that the invite even happened. There's nothing that's like, we're overwhelmed in the society right now. There's just too many invites to groups, to Zoom calls, to just possibly distractors even. And I will just say that if you are making sure that you're connected to something that brings you joy, that is something that you should share with others. And that will help us expedite not just the success of the movement, but the prevention of bad choices like hurting people and loitering and using anger as a way of actually protesting instead of love.
Well, anger takes us nowhere. You can use anger as a tool to get somewhere. But if you're just expressing anger to be angry, you don't get anywhere.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And in the end, you have embarrassment. In the end, you have hurt. In the end, you have apologies. You have all kinds of stuff that you have to clean up. So I had someone that worked for me some 5 years ago. And anytime I lost sight of, let's say, powerful leadership, positive leadership, etc., she would say, like, if someone made a mistake, and let's say a mistake would cost me thousands of dollars, she said, before you make a move, before you talk to someone, before you possibly get angry about the situation, choose love. And that had the most phenomenal effect on me. And so what would happen is I'd choose love, and I'd say, to choose love would look like this. And I would shift and I would be at peace. And that it's corny, but it's the truth. Every time I chose love, I got the result I wanted. I got the problem to disappear, and I got probably opportunity out of it. So let's look at two channels. Okay, so someone costs you $1,000, let's say, and they're an employee of yours, and you get angry with them, and you make them pay for it, and it's just anger. What happens is the person that you were angry at wants to leave. They want to make you pay for them feeling demeaned, and they want to. They don't want to feel like do anything nice for you. Okay. So you've lost her on every level. You have someone that is working for you that doesn't even want to work for you anymore. You have someone that wants to leave, and you have toxic energy in your workspace. Go the other route and go choose love and say to the person, hey, I know that you didn't mean to make that mistake. I know that's the last thing you ever wanted to cause. And the reality of it is going to hit me and it's going to hurt a little bit, but let's consider it a learning lesson and tell me how I can support you so that we can have successes in the future. Person's probably going to work 10 times harder. And they want to make you proud now.
Right. And that's extremely important. I just think people are almost afraid to be happy. And what's really funny, happiness is right inside of you. It's in your heart. And yet you doubt when you're happy, but you would never doubt that you're angry. You would never doubt that you're sad. Or that the sadness and the happiness is a cycle. We go up and down. So, okay, this is a moment of sadness. Why can't people just get past it and be happy?
Well, I think people that have studied it are accessing it, and maybe people that aren't accessing it don't know how to. So I think the gratitude is one piece because that's the mindset aspect of it. But I think the questions they're asking themselves may be the questions that disempower them from actually experiencing happiness. For instance, if something bad happens to you, you go, why me? Why is all the bad stuff always happen to me? That's not a question that actually shifts anything. But if you have a day that you were looking forward to going out and running or biking, and it was going to be a sunny day, and then all of a sudden it's a horrible weather and it's raining, you actually have a choice at that moment. You have a choice to say, wow, my day is ruined now, and I'm going to have a horrible day. But if you ask a new question, and the question is, okay, how can I still make this day great? Or how can I still be happy with this day? Well, for me, I would say, wow, I get to play with my son inside. Or wow, I get to write today. Or wow, I get to read a book. And I'll come up with, honestly, 20 or 30 things. And those 20 or 30 things evoke genuine happiness and, again, a choice. So let's go back to your gentleman that is 18. He may not be asking the right question. So the question is, why could you be happy right now? Why could you be happy right now? Or why is today a day that good things happened? Like what could happen today that's going to be good? So when my son's laughing all day, I actually have him at dinner time say, what was the best part of his day? Because that's the constant anchoring and programming that we have a great day, that we have so many choices of things that were good. And also we start welcoming them, or we start looking for them, or we start praying for them.
And I said that, I said, you're looking at the negative, but in every negative, every event, there's something positive.
If you choose to see it, yes.
Yeah. You need to decide. I don't know if you've ever seen the cartoon of two people on a bus. At one side of the bus, the person's really sad and miserable, and on the other side, there's someone smiling and very happy and very joyful. And the caption is, it depends what you choose. You can choose happiness at any time.
Well, I actually, speaking of illustrations, one of my favorite illustrations is the depiction of hell and heaven. So in this cartoon, which is really, I think, very accurate to really how it feels, in both cartoons, there's a big pot, and in the big pot is this amazing stew. Okay, so the stew is so delicious. Okay, you with me?
Yeah.
So in hell and heaven, they both have this huge pot on a nice fire, and it smells so delicious, and it's exactly what you'd want. So in hell, they have spoons that are 6 feet long. Maybe they're 3 feet to 6 feet long. They're not enough that you can go into the spoon, get a spoonful, and bring it back. So if you did that, you'd be throwing it past you. Okay? And in heaven, they have the same size spoons. Let's call it 4 feet long spoons. So you know what? And in hell, all the people in hell, they are skin and bones. They can barely sit on their chair, because they're miserable and they have this beautiful soup in front of them. But in heaven, all these people, they're well, they're happy, they are fully satisfied. So you know what the difference of the spoons are?
Yeah.
The difference of spoons is in heaven, you're using the spoon to feed someone across from you.
Oh, I know this story.
Yep. And in hell, you never figured out that if you'd fed the other person, they would feed you.
And actually, that could be Earth right now.
Mm-hmm. It could. Very much.
I don't think we realize that both heaven and hell are on this planet right now.
Yeah.
This is where we want to be.
Very true.
And with that, we have been talking for close to an hour. Thank you so very much. I hope you enjoyed this.
I told you I did, and I meant it. And I did it with a smile.
So perhaps we can continue this one day.
Well, Friday is apparently the plan.
Well, that's right. I'm going to see you Friday. Maybe we can go live on Friday also.
Perhaps, yeah.
In any case, I want to thank you for coming and speaking to me. I want to thank the viewers who watch, and thank Rehan Allahwala for the introduction, because I think he did introduce us.
He's an amazing man. He's such an amazing man. Beautiful spirit.
He introduces me to so many people that I really don't know all the time.
Well, I hope one day to meet him and take his picture. He's such a spiritual leader and a force of goodness.
You haven't met him yet?
No, we got to figure that out. Maybe Carla, that'll be how we all thank him.
Let's see if we can make it happen. I think it can be made to happen. He was here watching for a while.
I saw.
Anyway, I want to thank everyone. The show was produced by the Institute of Peace, which is a organization promoting peace one conversation at a time. And with that, we're going to go out waving and maybe a little laughter.
And even a hug, as Barry would do.